You are tired, you do not want to cook, you reach for something quick and the packaging says things like balanced, wholesome, or made with real ingredients. You eat it, you feel fine, you buy it again next week. That is the whole plan. While more people than ever are relying on ready meals to get through the week, the UK convenience food industry is worth over £4 billion a year. It is built on one insight above everything else, that a tired person making a fast decision will trust a confident label. The ingredients inside those packets, the preservative loads, the ultra-processed components, the artificial palatability engineering, none of that is hidden. It is just printed in a font size nobody reads after a long day. 8 ready meals sitting in UK fridges, freezers and cupboards right now. All of them more damaging than the packaging suggests. 4 alternatives that are genuinely worth the shelf space. The worst offender is not the most obviously processed one. It is the one that has convinced an entire country it is a reasonable lunch. This starts now. The ones to stop buying. We begin with the one that made ultra-processed food feel like a lifestyle choice. 8. Rustlers. Burgers. There's a specific kind of hunger that hits at 11 at night. Rustlers was designed for exactly that moment. The microwave. The 60 seconds. The smell that arrives before the food does. The whole product is engineered around a moment of lowered resistance, and it has become so culturally embedded that questioning it feels almost humorless. Open the packaging and read the ingredient list. Modified starch, dextrose, sodium phosphates, flavor enhancers, emulsifiers. A Rustler's burger is not a burger that was made quickly. It is a burger-shaped, ultra-processed product assembled from components specifically chosen for shelf stability, microwavability, and flavor intensity that overrides your ability to feel satisfied with a normal portion. Here is the part nobody reads. The sodium content in a standard Rustler's burger can exceed 2 grams per serving, approaching the entire recommended daily limit in a single late-night snack. That sodium load, combined with the flavor engineering, does not create fullness. It creates a specific craving loop that sends you back to the fridge within the hour. The hunger at midnight feels personal. The formulation made it inevitable. The 60-second convenience is real. Everything the convenience is hiding is also real. This next one engineered its way into a cultural identity and used that identity to hide what it is actually made of. 7. Pot noodle. Pot noodle does not pretend to be healthy. That is its defense, and it is a more sophisticated defense than it appears. By owning its own indulgence, by leaning into the guilty pleasure positioning, it has made critical scrutiny feel like missing the point. You are not supposed to analyze a pot noodle. You are supposed to enjoy it ironically and move on. A standard pot noodle contains between 1.5 and 2 grams of sodium per pot. Some varieties exceed that. The World Health Organization recommends no more than 2 grams of sodium per day from all food sources combined. A single pot noodle can deliver the majority of that in one sitting, wrapped in noodles that have been dehydrated, flavored, and reconstituted in a way that your digestive system processes at speed while registering almost no nutritional completion. This gets worse. The flavor system in pot noodle is built on a combination of MSG, yeast extract, and artificial flavor compounds that stimulate appetite rather than resolve it. The eating experience is engineered to feel satisfying in the moment and leave you restless within the hour. That is not a side effect of the formulation. It is the formulation. The cultural permission to eat pot noodle without guilt was the most important ingredient they ever added. Stop for a second. Every product we have covered so far has one thing in common. Your convenience was the priority. Your nutrition was never part of the brief. If the last 2 brands are already in your kitchen, subscribe before we get to the ones hiding behind health labels. 2 in, and the mechanism is already visible. Both of these products are built around a moment of vulnerability, tiredness, hunger, lowered decision-making capacity. Both of them are formulated with salt loads and flavor engineering designed to satisfy briefly and return you to hungry faster than the alternative. Neither of them hides their ingredient list. Both of them count on the fact that you will not read it at the moment you are most likely to reach for them. The next items are more sophisticated about it, and now the brand that has been living off your childhood memory for decades. What is inside the tin has not kept pace with the reputation on the label. 6. Heinz readymeals, tinned. Heinz spaghetti bolognese, Heinz macaroni, cheese. The tins with the familiar label, the colour, the font that has not changed meaningfully since you ate it as a child. That familiarity is one of the most powerful commercial assets in the UK food industry. It creates a feeling of safety that skips the part of your brain that would otherwise read the back of the tin. Heinz tinned ready meals are among the highest salt convenience products on UK supermarket shelves. A single tin of Heinz spaghetti bolognese contains over 1.5 grams of salt in a product marketed to and frequently consumed by children. The sauce is thickened with modified starch, sweetened with sugar, and preserved with ingredients that have nothing to do with the kitchen the imagery implies. Now watch what happens next. The nostalgia around Heinz is not incidental to its commercial success. It is structural. When a product triggers emotional memory, questioning stops. You are not evaluating the tin. You are revisiting something that felt safe when you were small. The brand has spent a century cultivating that association. The reformulation of what is inside the tin happened quietly, incrementally, and without the kind of announcement that would interrupt the feeling. The tin looks like a childhood staple. The ingredient list reads like a preservation system. Both things are true simultaneously. That combination is the product. This is where the health halo becomes genuinely sophisticated, because this one does not just look healthy. It has the word it needs right there in the brand name. 5. Uncle Ben's, ready rice, pouches, ready in 2 minutes. Whole grain options available. Uncle Ben's has positioned its rice pouches as the fast-cooking, healthy carb solution for busy households. The whole grain labeling in particular does a specific kind of work. It activates a health permission that bypasses the rest of the ingredient conversation entirely. Most people miss what comes next. The rice in Uncle Ben's pouches is pre-cooked, parboiled, and treated with additives including sunflower oil, salt, and in many varieties additional flavorings and anti-caking agents. The whole grain varieties do contain more fiber than the white rice equivalents, but the processing they undergo to achieve the 2-minute cook time degrades a portion of the nutritional advantage the whole grain would otherwise provide. Quick reality check. Cooking plain rice from scratch takes 15 minutes and costs a fraction of a pouch. The nutritional profile is superior. The ingredient list is one word. Uncle Ben's exists in the gap between what cooking actually requires and what a busy household believes it requires. The price premium for the pouch is a convenience tax levied on the perception of difficulty, not the reality of it. The whole grain label keeps the health permission active so the question never gets asked. 4 down. And this is where it becomes personal. Look at what these 4 products have in common. Each one is exploiting a different psychological lever. Rustlers uses tiredness and cultural normalization. Pot noodle uses ironic permission and engineered craving. Heinz uses childhood association and emotional bypass. Uncle Ben's uses health labeling to neutralize questioning. Not one of them competes on actual nutritional quality. Every single one of them competes on your state of mind at the moment of purchase. The next 3 are more expensive, and the psychological engineering is more refined. Then there is the brand that built a Scottish countryside identity around a product that the Scottish countryside would not recognize. 4. Baxter's Soups. Baxter's has one of the most effective brand identities in UK food retail. The tartan, the Speyside heritage, the sense of a small family business ladling soup in the Highlands. That image exists to answer a specific question before you ask it. Is this a brand I can trust? The answer is embedded in the imagery so completely that most people never need to look further. The healthy choice range is where the real damage is done. That name implies a nutritionist made a decision on your behalf. What it actually means is that the calorie count falls below a self-selected threshold. The salt content in a standard Baxter's Healthy Choice tin can reach 1.5 grams per serving. The thickening comes from maltodextrin rather than the slow reduction of real vegetables. The range was named to trigger a health permission. The formulation behind the name was never required to earn it. And this is where the damage lands differently from every other brand on this list. Baxter's is specifically chosen by people making an active effort to eat better. The heritage, the soup format, the healthy choice label, each one is a signal that this product is on your side. The people most deliberately deceived by Baxter's are the ones who cared enough to look for a better option. They found one that spent its entire marketing budget simulating that quality rather than producing it. Now the deception moves into your freezer, and it involves a number on the packaging that almost nobody stops to question properly. 3. Bird's Eye Ready Meals. Bird's Eye occupies a specific and powerful space in the UK freezer aisle. Trusted, established, the brand that has fed British families for generations. The Captain Birdseye character spent decades associating the brand with quality and care in a way that settled into cultural furniture. Nobody questions furniture. Bird's Eye Ready Meals, including ranges marketed as lighter or balanced, are built from component lists that routinely run to 30 or 40 items. Stabilizers, emulsifiers, flavor enhancers, modified starches, and maltodextrin appear across the range with the consistency of standard production decisions. The calorie figure on the front of the pack is accurate. It is also doing a specific psychological job, converting a question about ingredient quality into a question about arithmetic. That swap favors the brand enormously, and here is what that swap costs you. A calorie count tells you how much energy a meal contains. It tells you nothing about how long that energy lasts, how your body processes the components delivering it, or whether the meal will hold you until your next one. The Bird's Eye Lighter range is selling you a number. What happens in your body after you eat the meal behind that number was never part of the marketing brief. Before we continue, ask yourself this: how many of these brands are currently sitting in your kitchen right now? And now the one that uses a single word to do the heaviest lifting in the ready meal aisle. 2. Supermarket own brand chilled ready meals. Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda. Chilled, not frozen. The distinction feels meaningful. Frozen food carries a preservation connotation that chilled food escapes entirely. Chilled food sits in the refrigerated section next to the fresh produce, wrapped in packaging that uses words like freshly prepared and made with British ingredients. The temperature of the storage cabinet is doing an enormous amount of marketing work that the ingredient list does not support. Here is what chilled actually means in a supermarket context. It means the product is stored at a temperature that slows bacterial growth. It does not mean freshly made. It does not mean recently cooked. It does not mean the contents are closer to a home-cooked meal than a frozen equivalent. It means the cabinet is cold. That is the entire distinction you are paying a premium for, and the packaging has been designed to make that temperature feel like a quality statement. Here is the part nobody reads. These meals are priced to feel like a reasonable midpoint between fast food and cooking from scratch. That positioning is the product. The component list on a Tesco Finest chilled ready meal is not shorter than a frozen equivalent. In many cases, it is longer. The premium tier adds ingredient names that sound artisan while the underlying production process remains industrial. You paid more for the word finest. The meal inside did not change. One more before the worst one, and it is the one you probably buy most often. 7 ready meals, 7 different manipulation strategies, tiredness, nostalgia, health labeling, heritage imagery, calorie arithmetic, temperature perception, premium language, each one targeting a different moment of decision-making. The brand at number 1 on this list is not the most processed. It is the most purchased, and the reason most people never question it is that it has become so embedded in the rhythm of a British working day that stopping to question it would feel like questioning something much larger than a lunch. Save this one, because this is the most purchased lunchtime product in the United Kingdom. And it is doing more damage than any other item on this list precisely because of how ordinary it has become. 1. Greggs Meal Deals. The queue, the paper bag, the specific pleasure of the sausage roll still warm through the bag. Greggs is not just a food purchase in the UK, it is a cultural ritual, a shared experience that crosses income brackets and regions in a way almost no other food brand manages. Criticising Greggs feels to many people like criticising something beloved and democratic. That cultural armour is the most valuable thing Greggs owns. What is inside that paper bag is not a balanced meal. It is a very efficient system for consuming a large amount of refined carbohydrate, processed fat, and salt in a short window while standing at a counter or walking back to your desk. The pastry, the filling, the drink, the snack. Each component individually would be unremarkable. Together, they deliver a calorie load that regularly exceeds 1,000 and a salt content that can top 3 grams, in a format so fast and enjoyable that your body has no time to register what just happened before you have finished. And this is where the real cost lands. Not the price at the till, the cost to your afternoon. The energy from a Greggs meal deal is front-loaded and fragile. It arrives fast, it feels complete in the moment, and within 90 minutes the concentration gap opens. You reach for something else. The second purchase of the afternoon is not a separate decision. It is a consequence of the first one. Greggs designed a brilliant product for the moment of purchase. What happens after you leave the shop was never part of the brief. But the worst part is this. The democratization of the Greggs experience, the idea that an affordable, accessible, enjoyable lunch is somehow anti-elitist to examine, has placed it beyond the nutritional conversation entirely. People who would question an expensive ready meal will defend a Greggs order without a second thought. The cultural identity is the protection. The ingredient list never needed to improve because the brand story made the question feel unwelcome. The 4 worth buying. Every brand above is competing on convenience, price, emotion, or identity. The 4 below are competing on something more straightforward: actual food quality that holds up when you read the back of the packaging. Each one represents a different version of what a ready meal could be if the production priority was what ends up in your body rather than what ends up on the shelf. This first one is the only ready meal brand in the UK where the person who made it and the person eating it are on the same side of the transaction. 4. Cook. Cook meals are made in a production kitchen, not a manufacturing facility. That distinction is not marketing language. It is the structural reason the ingredient lists read differently from every brand in the first half of this list. Real butter. Named cuts of meat, vegetables with an origin, cream from a dairy, the kind of ingredient list you would write if you were actually cooking rather than formulating. Cook publishes its sourcing standards. No artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives across the range. The meals are frozen at the point of production, which means the quality that went in is the quality that arrives in your kitchen, without the modified atmosphere packaging and acidity regulators that chilled ready meals require to extend shelf life. Independent testing has consistently placed Cook nutritional profiles above the ready meal category average. The meals cost more than supermarket own brand alternatives. They cost less than the ingredient bill for cooking the equivalent from scratch. For anyone who has been using convenience food as a daily solution, rather than an occasional fallback, Cook is the version of that solution that does not require a trade-off between speed and what you are actually eating. Available in Cook stores across the UK and online. The next brand was built by someone who genuinely could not find a ready meal worth eating, so they made one. 3. Charlie Bigham started making meals in the mid-1990s because he believed the ready meal category had entirely given up on tasting like food. The meals he created were built around the question of what a good home cook would actually use, which turns out to be a more radical starting point in this industry than it should be. Charlie Bigham's meals are made with named, traceable ingredients, no artificial additives, no flavor enhancers. The ingredient lists are short enough to read without needing a food science qualification. The meals are produced in the UK, chilled rather than frozen, and contain calorie and nutritional profiles that reflect the quality of what is inside them rather than a reformulation designed to hit a target number on the front of the pack. The range covers genuinely satisfying meals, proper curries, pasta dishes, pies, and fish dishes made with ingredients that behave like ingredients rather than components. Available across all major UK supermarkets in the chilled ready meal section. Priced at the premium end, but delivering a quality gap that is audible the moment you open the packaging. Not premium pricing for premium positioning. Premium pricing because the food actually costs more to make properly. The next one is the only ready meal brand on this list that was designed by a nutritionist before it was designed by a marketer. 2. Mindful Chef. Mindful Chef began as a recipe box service and expanded into ready meals with a specific commitment. Every meal would be gluten-free, free from refined carbohydrates, and built around whole food ingredients with a verified nutritional profile. That commitment is independently auditable because the meals are delivered with full ingredient transparency and sourcing information. The meals are calorie appropriate without being calorie obsessed. The distinction matters. Calorie appropriate means the portion is sized for genuine satiety, using ingredients that actually sustain energy across several hours. Calorie obsessed, which describes the bird's eye and supermarket own brand approach, means the number is low enough to carry a health implication regardless of what produces it. Mindful Chef sources from British farms where possible, publishes its supplier list, and has B Corp certification, which requires independent third-party verification of social and environmental standards. For anyone who has been choosing ready meals specifically because they want to eat better without the time investment of cooking from scratch, this is the brand where the intention and the product are genuinely aligned. Available online and in selected Waitrose and Ocado. And the final one, the smallest brand on this list, the one that never compromised and built its reputation entirely on that refusal. 1. Higgity makes pies, quiches and tarts. That sounds narrow. The reason it matters is that within that narrow category, Higgity has refused every shortcut that every other brand in this list has taken at various points in its history. Real butter, free-range eggs named British vegetables, pastry made with actual flour and fat in the proportions a baker would use, not a cost reduction model. Higgity is B Corp certified. The certification covers the entire supply chain, the treatment of suppliers, the environmental footprint of production, and the integrity of the ingredients. It is not a marketing badge. It is a legal commitment to a verified standard that requires annual independent reassessment. The ingredient lists on Higgity products are the shortest and most readable of any prepared food brand in UK supermarkets. The meals fill you in the way real food fills you, without the craving loop, without the salt load, without the reformulated palatability that brings you back to the kitchen an hour later. For the category of prepared food that requires pastry, and pastry is one of the places additive shortcuts are most easily hidden and most commonly used, Higgity is what the category looks like when the person making the product cares more about what is inside it than what is printed on the outside. Available in Waitrose, Ocado and selected independents. 8 ready meals. 8 different ways of using your tiredness, your nostalgia, your health intentions, or your cultural loyalty against your own interests. 4 brands that decided the ingredient list was the product, not the packaging. The next time you pick up a ready meal, remember this. The packaging was designed to sell the food. The ingredient list tells you what you are actually buying. If this changed what you will reach for next time you are tired and hungry, subscribe. Because the next breakdown covers the processed foods hiding in the health aisle itself.